Shabbat Shalom. In a recent post on X, formerly known as Twitter, after enumerating all the ways the Jewish people have come together after October 7th, President and CEO of the Jewish Agency, Dan Elbaum, wrote about how there's also a small but vocal group on the left, and he names If Not Now and Jewish Voices for Peace, that have used this moment to be very critical of Israel. He writes, "I have reached a sad conclusion. As much as I would not like to give up on a single Jew, I have given up on them. For me, they are deserving of cherem, the formal exclusion from the Jewish people." He continues, "There will be a time in the future to wonder about how such people could have emerged from our community. It should involve introspection as to Jewish and Israel education, but for now, there is nothing to be done with them. Unlike Hamas, who would have joyously murdered them on October 7th, I do not consider them Jews." Now, Elbaum's provocative statements brought up many questions for me around the nature of Jewish peoplehood. We often talk as if we are one Jewish people worldwide, and yet there are seemingly irreconcilable differences that force me to question whether the concept of a unified Jewish people is even possible. My heart breaks for the enormous tragedy the Palestinians of Gaza are experiencing, and yet seeing Jews protest Israel using the words like genocide crosses a line for me too. In another direction politically, even before October 7th, I've experienced observant Jews openly saying horrendous things to me about my life as a gay man, that I'm living in sin, I'm too swayed by temptation and need to have self-control, or that a parade I'm marching in is a parade of beasts. These horrific insults sit alongside political opinions of excess power that I also find deeply against Judaism. We may say as a Jewish people that we've come together post-October 7th. But have we? Are we really one people if we utterly disdain others within the tribe? Does it even matter if we're one people? Parashat Yitro holds a foundational moment for us as a people, one where the entire nation enters the covenant with God. We will soon read about Moshe going up Sinai. God calls to Moshe to tell the Israelites that if they obey God and keep the covenant, they will be a holy nation. They answer, "Vaya'anu kol ha'am yachdav." All the people answered as one, saying, "All that God has spoken, we will do." The Israelites then prepare for this ultimate encounter with God, a moment of grandeur with fire and brimstone-like qualities, where the Israelites receive the Ten Commandments. The Women's Commentary on the Torah describes this encounter as the heart of the Torah, and it determines this event as the determining factor in our spiritual and national identity. Except upon close read of the verses before this drama plays out, I believe there's another moment that comes before the revelation that weighs in on this question of whether a unified Jewish people truly matters. The verse at the beginning of chapter 19, in speaking about the Israelites' journey to Sinai, repeats the word encamped twice. First, it's in the plural, and then in the singular. Vayisu merifidim, vayavo b'midbar Sinai, vayachanu b'midbar, Vayachon Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar. And they journeyed from Rephidim, and they entered desert Sinai, and they encamped in the desert, Israel encamped there opposite the mountain. In the Hebrew, it's more stark. The verb lachanot, to camp or even to park in modern Hebrew, switches from the plural in the first part of the sentence to the singular in the second. Israel changes in this one sentence from a plural entity to a singular. It's a fascinating switch in grammar. Rashi, before he talks about this grammatical change, wonders why there's so much repetition in this verse, particularly a repetition of the Israelites leaving from Rephidim and then coming to Sinai from earlier in the text. His answer is that this repetition is in order to make a distinction between the different nature of the Israelites' behavior on their journey. Rashi cites a midrash that says the Israelites journeyed in machlochet, or disagreement. In Rephidim, the Israelites went as far as asking why they were even taken from Egypt to be brought to a place with no water, showing a complete lack of gratitude for the miraculous ways of God. And now, arriving in Sinai, the midrash says they arrived in a state of tshuva, or repentance, reflecting the growth of the Israelites as a community on the journey. In the past, they had been a community that quarreled with one another, and now, Rashi states, they are keish echad belev echad, as one being with one heart. In this pasuk, the text describes a people that were separate, quarrelsome, lacking trust, and magnificently transforms into a united entity. Here we can see the people of Israel were already united before they were able to receive the Torah. Only after this moment of unification were they able to accept the covenant and witness God's revelation. Israeli Rabbi Chaim Shalom wrote, "When we understand the significance of this, it becomes clear that the giving of Torah did not unite us. We were already united." Now, what surprises me about this read of the text is that the moment of unification did not occur in these grand headlining moments, Yitziat Mitzrayim, the leaving of Egypt, or the upcoming revelation. The Israelites did the work on their own, entering a state of tshuva, Rashi said, to bring about this unification while journeying from Rephidim to Sinai. It was on the journey that the Israelites were able to be one being with one heart. Is there something that brings us together today to make up one being with one heart? I know there are commonalities that tie Jews together, and yet on this Shabbat, I worry that the bonds are not able to hold the differences among us. There can and should be different, diverse arteries surrounding the heart, but are they all even entering the same heart? What does it mean to be a unified people when some within the group hold opinions you find to be an assault on your core values or identities? What does it mean to be a unified people when you believe others do not take your safety seriously? We have such stark differences. Is Jewish peoplehood actually possible? It must be, our Torah is telling us. Midrash Tanchum Abuber wrote that God actually wanted to give the Torah to the Israelites immediately after they left Egypt. However, God didn't give the Torah because the Israelites were fighting with one another, in particular about moving forward or going back to Egypt. It is only when they became one, after leaving Rephidim, the Midrash says, that God was ready to give the Torah to them. The Midrash cites the famous proverb, familiar to many of us, we will sing at the end of the Torah service, Derachecha darchei noam v'chol nativoteha shalom. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peaceful. Only once the Israelites were a unified people with a sense of harmony and peace were they ready for the Torah. One people with one heart is beautiful conceptually, but the reality on the ground makes it feel far harder to achieve. What is possible? Now, one way forward, to move forward, is based on the teaching by the Or HaChaim, an 18th century Moroccan Kabbalist and Talmudist. He wrote about 3 seemingly simple steps that can serve as guides, and served as guides for the Israelites that they needed to do in order to receive the Torah. First, he writes, the Israelites needed to study Torah. Now, there is a bit of a contradiction here. How can they study something that they haven't yet received? But I think what the Or HaChaim reminds us of is that the practice of Torah, of studying Torah, allows for a grounded discourse, machloket l'shem shamayim, or conflict for the sake of heaven, which centers a disagreement around a common purpose by those who disagree. Second, he says we need to be humble and modest. In a world of so much uncertainty about Israel and for the Jewish people, the Jewish experience in the diaspora, acting humbly asks us to walk through the world recognizing all that we do not know, yet also carrying a trust that God and Torah will guide the way. Third, and most importantly, for the Or HaChaim, is for us to come together as one whole beating heart by showing up and being with one another, growing as a response to our differences, and treating each other kindly. He explains that this growth is a kind of sharpening of one another, the kind that can happen when we look at a difference of opinion or identity and see the other face to face and look at one another's humanity. These can serve as guideposts for our work of coalescing around one being with one heart, just as our ancestors did on the journey towards Sinai. The Kli Yakar, a Torah commentary written in the early 17th century in Eastern Europe, wrote that the place, Rephidim, also has the letters that spell separate, Lefared, because of how separate the Israelites were there. He echoes the sentiment that on this journey from Rephidim to Sinai, the Israelites were not worthy of the Torah because the peace was lacking among them. The Kli Yakar said the Israelites desired power and honor, which is what he blames the fighting on. When they saw Sinai was among the shortest of the mountains, and God still chose it, the Israelites realized God chooses the humble, according to the Kli Yakar. Also, he writes the division between the Israelites would have led to 2 Torahs, which is why the Israelites couldn't receive it. Then the Kli Yakar adds in a beautiful, mystical angle the reason why the previous pasuk about the date that this happened, it's the pasuk before the one I read about the journeying and the changing from plural to singular, that pasuk specifies that the Israelites arrived in the 3rd month, and on that day they came to the Sinai desert. The Kli Yakar teaches that this month, the month of Sivan, which has the astrological sign of twins, instructs us that Jews should be connected like twins, coming from the same source, seemingly different potentially, but with different opinions and identities. The Jews should be perfectly connected with love. This beautiful imagery about twins and connectedness reminds us what sort of thinking it takes to return to a people with one beating heart. Elbaum's post on X calling for the excommunication of some Jews is not the way forward. If we are going to be ready to receive the ongoing revelation of the Torah that we desperately need, we all need to jump into this hard work of tshuva, returning to one another. While challenging, I believe we must call in those we disagree with. We must find a way to disagree for the sake of heaven, even if it takes extra work to convince others to buy into that idea. We face many challenges as a people, some of them October 7th brought about, and many that were already there. A time of great challenge calls on us as one people to be able to stand at Sinai prepared to receive God's revelation to guide us on a hopeful and constructive path forward. Our rabbis remind us in response to this parasha that humility, showing up for one another, an open curiosity to learn and grow from our differences, and a simple kindness are the clearest and brightest paths we have. The Israelites were not able to receive Torah and witness revelation until they were one being with one heart. Ke'ish echad belev echad. One being with one heart. It's time for us to lift up those wise words. May we, as a Jewish people, be drawn closer to our shared purpose, so we too have the honor of encountering the divine in all its glory to guide us into the next phase of our Jewish story. Shabbat Shalom.